They didn't arrest her. They didn't question her. They didn't give her a chance to speak. Instead, they surrounded her, accused her, and set her on fire while cameras rolled. This is not a story about guilt. It's a story about what happens when lies spread faster than the truth. Before we continue, please subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. Take a moment to tell us in the comments where you're watching from. You're part of this community, and we'd love to hear from you. This is Crime Hall. The story begins. This case takes place in southern Africa during the mid-1980s, a time when the country was cracking under decades of racial segregation, political violence, and deep mistrust. For the ruling minority, life carried privilege and protection. For the majority, life was controlled, restricted, and surveilled. Entire communities were forced into overcrowded townships with no infrastructure, no paved roads, no proper sanitation, unreliable electricity, and little access to employment. Crime thrived, anger simmered, police presence was heavy and often violent. As resistance movements grew stronger, so did the government's efforts to crush them. Protesters were beaten, imprisoned, or killed. Informants infiltrated activist networks. Nobody knew who could be trusted anymore. In this climate, rumors could be lethal. Lerato Maseko was 24 years old. She lived in the township of Kailicha Ridge, raising her young son alone. She worked long shifts at a textile processing plant, often more than 10 hours a day, earning just enough to survive. By all accounts, she was quiet, hardworking, and deeply involved in her community. She attended meetings. She helped organize food drives. She was sympathetic to resistance movements, though she held no position of power. Lerato was not a fighter. She was not a leader. She was simply present, and that would be enough to get her killed. About 5 weeks before her death, a man arrived in Kailicha Ridge. No one knew his real name. He called himself Daniel. Daniel claimed he had connections, weapons, explosives, training. He said he was part of a militant resistance cell fighting the regime from underground. Some believed him immediately. Others were cautious. But desperation has a way of lowering defenses. Lerato had spoken to him a handful of times. She introduced him to a few local men she knew through community meetings. Nothing more. Later, rumors would twist this into something darker. One night, Daniel gave several young men hand grenades, instructing them to attack police homes at midnight. What none of them knew was that the grenades were tampered with. As soon as the pins were pulled, the explosives detonated instantly. 4 young men died, not at their targets, but in the streets where they stood. Their bodies were left there. No ambulances, no morgue vans. By morning, wild animals had begun tearing at the remains. The township exploded with grief and fury. People demanded answers. Who brought Daniel into the community? Who introduced him? Who knew him? Whispers turned into accusations. Someone said Lerato had vouched for him. Someone else claimed she was romantically involved with him. Another insisted she had tipped off the police. There was no proof, no evidence, just fear searching for a face. Lerato denied everything. She begged people to listen. She insisted she had been lied to just like everyone else. But once a crowd decides you are guilty, denial sounds like confirmation. Friends told Lerato to leave the township, to hide, to run. She refused. If she ran, she believed it would seal her guilt forever. She stayed, trusting that truth would protect her. It wouldn't. On July 20th, the community gathered to bury political activists who had recently died. Lerato attended, despite repeated warnings. Minutes after arriving, she realized something was wrong. People were staring, pointing, shouting. Someone screamed her name. She ran. They caught her in an open field. What followed was pure mob violence. She was dragged to the ground, beaten with sticks, stones, boots, and fists. Dozens surrounded her, screaming for her death. A tire was forced over her shoulders and around her neck. Fuel was poured over it. Someone lit a match. Flames swallowed her face. She screamed until she couldn't. A heavy stone was dropped onto her chest to keep her from moving. Broken glass was used to mutilate her. The beating never stopped. Even after her body went still, they continued, crushing her skull, shattering every tooth in her mouth. A television crew filmed much of the attack. The footage later aired, grainy, chaotic, horrifying. Viewers watched as a woman was kicked, stomped, burned alive by her own community. It was one of the first times such an execution was ever broadcast. The world recoiled. Lerado's sister later testified that she identified her only by her feet. Her face was unrecognizable. A rock still rested on her head. Every tooth she once had was gone. Years later, an official investigation revealed the truth. Daniel was not a resistance fighter. He was a police informant. The grenades were deliberately sabotaged. The accusations against Lerado were engineered. She had been used and then sacrificed. Her name was cleared, but the truth came too late. Lerado Maseco did not die because she betrayed anyone. She died because fear moves faster than facts, because mobs don't wait for proof, because lies thrive in chaos. Her story remains one of the most disturbing examples of what happens when justice is replaced by rage. And once again, the innocent paid the price.